Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Cryptonomics, brought to you by CoinDCX and Business Today. Joining me today, I have from CoinDCX, GAURAV Arorara, who's going to be talking to us all about DeFi. He's the Senior Vice President at CoinDCX. Great to have you with us, GAURAV. So let's talk about DeFi and how is it different to crypto? Are they completely different? Are they synonymous? Are they interlinked? How would you describe it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think there's a theoretical understanding. There's a commonly known understanding. Let me try and clarify that. So, blockchain. Let me start with that. The blockchain is what is the underlying technology for all of this. It's basically something that's been around for a while, but now it's picked up steam. And blockchain allows transactions to be done without having a centralized entity in the middle. So cryptocurrency, which was Bitcoin, the most popular cryptocurrency, was the first application of blockchain, which kind of everybody knew about. And that's obviously its history. It's been around for many years now. So DeFi, which is decentralized finance, is like a much larger umbrella. So cryptocurrency is just one small part of it. DeFi, decentralized finance, includes many more terms like lending, earning, it could be stock transactions. So all of that comes under decentralized finance. So to summarize, I would say, crypto or cryptocurrency, the small part of decentralized finance.
So GAURAV, what are some of the DeFi risks when it comes to the Indian market as well as globally?
Sure. So let me start with the global ones, I think, because it's primarily a global platform. See, decentralized finance is a very new system. And, in a way, the way I like to say it is, we're crunching 150 years of financial evolution within like 5 or 10 years. So in the early stages, there are a lot of risks in systems. So let me talk about, bucket them in two large buckets. So one is what I can say technological risk, just because of the nascent stage of the platform. So the decentralized finance is, nothing but code. And the very interesting thing about this code is that it is all open source. So anybody can just go online, download the code and inspect it. And what that does is that gives any malicious actor a lot of opportunity to study the code, study vulnerabilities and attack it, as opposed to somebody like a Google or Amazon or a bank. Nobody would be able to get into their code. They would just attack by hit and trial. So this open source obviously gives a specific opportunity for attackers to attack it. The flip side of that is, of course, because it's open source, there are thousands and billions of eyes helping to improve that code. And, they keep finding, there are white hat hackers, there are contributors who keep finding flaws and fixing it. So eventually, I believe this will lead to a much more resilient and stronger code base. But in the early stages, there are definitely hacks. So that's the first one, what is called smart contract risk. The contract can be hacked. The other thing is, if you look at, what decentralized finance is, there are it's like a layering. So there are chains and there are protocols. So your exposure to the code risk is not just on your application or your smart contract, but also, for example, the underlying chain. So all of that needs to get to a certain set of maturity. The other very large risk, which people often talk about, is kind of scalability and cost. That's another one. So, the number that's often thrown around, these are common ones saying, hey, Ethereum, which is the most common decentralized financing, can only support 15 transactions per second, whereas Visa, which is one of the second largest payment processor, can support so many thousands. Hey, the electricity that's required to validate some of the transactions here can power a small country like Switzerland. Right, so it's wasteful. So there's a cost, and customers have to pay cost per transaction, which can go into hundreds of dollars at some peak time. So these are genuine problems which are there. So scalability and cost. Again, I think there are a lot of very, very smart people trying to solve this. In fact, there's a very big event coming up in the crypto space called the Merge, where Ethereum is moving to an advanced next level of Ethereum, which they call Ethereum 2.0. And that merge is going to bring down the electricity cost by as much as 99.9%. So that's a huge event that's coming And there are many other, steps in that. And by the end of this whole journey that they've charted out, the projection is that we'll be able to support as many as 15,000 transactions per second, and that will keep on growing exponentially. So, like I said, the scalability and cost risk is real, but there are genuinely smart people who have a path to kind of bridging this cost. A third very interesting risk about DeFi is what's called self-custody. So in decentralized finance, as opposed to a bank where you go deposit your money with the bank, and the bank needs to be secure and they save it for you. In decentralized finance, you're almost owning your own custody. It's with you. You have a private key, and only you can access those assets with that private key. And that's also, I would say, right now, one of the biggest downsides of it, because if you lose the private key, you can never access that money again. If somebody else gets access to that private key, then they can take all of their money. And so, that you are in a way a single point of failure, which is good in some cases, but it's bad if you're careless and you're not the most careful, and you keep losing your car keys. So you definitely don't want to leave your private keys lying around. So, that's another, I would say, risk which is there. And that's definitely something that needs to be solved. There need to be some smarter recovery mechanisms to help customers, because, we are humans, we keep losing things all the time. So these are what I call, that bucket of technological risks. There's another very large, risk bucket, which regulators are very concerned about, is regulatory risk, right? So decentralized finance, and rightly so, because there's a certain level of anonymity which DeFi brings in, which can allow bad actors to, utilize this for things like money laundering, use it for, evading taxes, and many, many things. So bad actors always are one of the smartest, and they'll find any loophole. So that's, one of the risks that we need to solve. We need to figure out how to associate some kind of identity with some of these transactions while not losing, obviously, the power of decentralization. The other risks that that regulators worry about is just the fact that users or customers will be taking unknowing risks. That regulators have spent a lot of years trying to come up with ways so that the unsuspecting or the uneducated or the unknowing user won't make a transaction which they don't fully understand. And with decentralized finance, everybody has access to everything. So it can potentially lead to people doing things that they shouldn't be getting involved with. So that's another leg that we need to solve. We need to figure out how to only give access to maybe a certain class of users, or have them qualify before they can do certain transactions. So that's the second part of the regulatory risks there.
So what is DAO? And I don't know if it's a different pronunciation, and how is it connected to DeFi?
Yeah, it's a big buzzword these days, right? So DAO is what it's called. People refer to it, DAO. The full form is Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It's if you look at it from a Puritan point of view, I think it's pretty much an ideal state of an organization. And before I start explaining a DAO, just take a step back, because I'm a big history buff. Just take a step back, and if you look at some of the large changes that have happened for humanity, they've actually happened because of the way we've been organized. So if you go all the way back to Homo sapiens versus Homo neanderthals, different type of species of humans, the Homo sapiens organized in tribes that allowed them to kind of fight against other species and take over the world, and so that helped them. So that organization helped. If you go to the kingdoms, the early kingdoms, how they organized around labor, that helped kind of humans build amazing wonders like the pyramids and the Taj Mahal, and so many things way back when we didn't have. So that's again a very advanced form of organization. In the recent past, if you look at corporations, I think they've been a very, very interesting form of organization, which has allowed us to pool capital and take very risky bets like exploring the world, or building an Amazon, or just going into completely different risky bets. So that's many people have come together and pooled capital. So that's one form of organization. I think DAO is, I would say, the next evolution of this organization, where everybody is almost has an equal part to say. There is no CEO, there is no one central person who is governing the organization. And the beautiful thing about DAO is it's again code. It does exactly what it is coded to do. There is nobody who can kind of break the rules of the organization. Once everybody votes on a path or a decision or capital allocation, a partnership, it's coded, and only that can happen. Nobody else can change it. If people want to change it, they come up with a new vote. Everybody agrees to it. If that's agreed, now that is a new way to do it. So I think DAO is, like, I would say, the most Puritan form of democracy, where it allows no central person to go against the rule that a collective comes up with. And even if you look from a regulator's point of view, right? I think if we manage to solve some of the other problems, a DAO can be like the best thing for regulators. Because once a regulator says, hey, this DAO, which is a decentralized bank, can only do ABC. They can only lend to this type of people. They can only have this type of collateralization. They can only follow these rules. The DAO will do only that. And there is like nothing else it can do. And every decision of the DAO, that's the other important thing, it's available on the chain for audit. So you don't need a quarterly or an annual audit. Everything is available for a live audit at any point of time. So like I said, I think if you're able to do this, this is the purest and the most transparent form of organization.
Okay, so it's interesting because DeFi continues to develop despite concerns, as you also touched upon. How would you sum it up in terms of the pros and cons when we're taking a look at this technology?
See, when I say, I guess, when you say concerns, I guess there are two large concerns everybody has about DeFi, right? The biggest one that everybody sees is price. Hey, price is going down, and we thought it would go to 100,000, now it's down to 20,000. So price is going against what it has. So that's one large concern, and obviously the other concern is there's a lot of regulatory ambiguity. How will we survive in this? So let me kind of take both of these separately. So on the price one, right, I think there are like two stories and two timelines that keep operating completely parallelly. So there's a speculative story which governs price. And there's actually utility story saying, hey, this is the use of the technology. This is what will actually happen. They may or may not be tied together always. So, speculators come in, they assume that some utility will happen. The utility takes more time to happen and the price goes down. But if you talk of it from a pure technologist or a product person's point of view, I think regardless of what the price is, if you continue working on the utility, on the real use cases, eventually the price will move up. That's really the belief. So I think that's what most people are doing, saying, hey, let's not be distracted by the price movement. Let's try to find real use cases, which is where DeFi has come up, right? Find real financial use cases, find ways that people can remove inefficiencies, unlock value and distribute it amongst people. And that's what people are moving on. So I genuinely believe that the next wave of growth is not going to come from just pure speculation. It will come from actual utilities, actual use cases that are going to, people will see value, and then obviously the price may follow that movement. So that's I think the price concern. The other regulatory concern, again, I think it's a real concern. And there I believe all of the things that we talked about earlier in terms of regulatory concerns are real. What we need is enabling regulations where regulators kind of make it saying, hey, this is how the real world and the crypto world interact. This is the boundary. This is how we regulate the boundary. And within that, these are the rules of the game. And within that, I think that will definitely give more trust to new users. It will allow more applications to develop in the regulatory clarity. Ambiguity leads to stasis in some ways. Clarity leads to obviously growth. So that's the other one. I think that might take a little more time because we're still trying to understand how to regulate this. But regardless, I think the innovators are still at it. We've put our head down and we are just building it. I think my favorite quote here is, when it rains, fishermen build nets. And that's what we're doing. We're just building out stuff.
Amazing. Gaurav, thank you so much. Great speaking with you today on Cryptonomics.
Thanks.
Okay.